going to show you guys how to leverage. So first thing we're going to go through is how to stand out in saturated niches like fat loss. Doesn't matter whether you're working with fat loss for entrepreneurs or lawyers or body transformation or muscle gain. I'm going to show you guys how to stand out within very saturated fitness niches. Second thing that we're going to go through is the celebrity positioning formula. So this is how to start creating a compelling personal brand, even though you might be new to the game, even though you might not necessarily have loads of client testimonials or experience yet. And then the third thing that we're going to go through is I'm going to show you guys the exact organic content strategy that has generated my clients and I basically, well, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay. And the reason why I wanted to show you guys the last point here is because a lot of the time, most people, when they first learn about starting a fitness business, we all get told the same stuff, like DM a bunch of people or post on Facebook groups. And, you know, while those tactics work, they're not always the best because more and more of your competitors are doing it, which means that you're getting less ROI. So I'm going to show you guys how to flip the frame so that instead of you having to hunt for people, people are coming to you. So the first thing is there are two ways to stand out in a saturated fitness niche. All right. And when I say saturated fitness niche, this is what we see a lot of the time is people will say things like, you know, I help busy entrepreneurs lose weight and gain muscle without sacrificing their favorite food. Or they'll say something like, oh, well, I help moms lose weight and, you know, without boring cardio. And, you know, like those bland offer statements used to work. But once again, because more and more of your competitors are doing it, what you don't want is you don't want to position yourself as, you know, more of the same, even though you might be going after doctors when your competitors going after lawyers, because, you know, that's still not quite as compelling. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to be more specific and find your unique angle within the fat loss space or within the body transformation niche. And what I mean by that is within fat loss, within gain muscle, within the whole niche of wanting to look good, what specific thing can you dial down on even more? So bonus, if your messaging and your angle here actually overlaps with the trends of the market today. So think about gym leggings. When, you know, 5 years ago, Nike and Adidas and Puma were all selling gym leggings, they were all trying to differentiate based on the design and also based on the quality of the material in terms of being, you know, sweat proof and cool wick or air wick and things like that. But now if we look at the way the fitness industry has progressed, people in fitness, they don't care about, you know, the design of the leggings or nor do they care about the material of the leggings. What do they care about? Does it make their butt look good and does it sculpt their legs? So then clothing brands, what they've done is they've actually shifted their marketing so that instead of appealing to specific types of fabric being better for sports, they're now appealing to leggings being squat proof, seeing as more and more girls these days are, well, doing squats and looking for leggings that are squat proof. And they're designing leggings, which the selling point is to, you know, push up your butt and make your butt look good. So here are some examples that I'm going to give you guys. I wouldn't take these, you know, I would find your own examples. But within the look good niche, there are still so many different things that you can really dial in on. So one example being, if you work with females, you know, helping females snatch their waists and, you know, build a butt. And if you're working with males, then your niche within this niche of fat loss could be to help people get a ripped six pack or get, you know, alpha arms. And that's how you would brand your overall messaging long term if we were to look at your content from a top down perspective. So then when you can hone in on a specific sub niche, right? So a niche within the fat loss niche, what happens is that people, or well, your overall messaging is then super specific to your angle. So instead of just giving people tips on, three tricks on how to lose weight, you'd then be talking about, 3 tips on how to snatch that waist in a piece of content. Now, of course, the whole like 3 tips on how to do this is not the most compelling piece of educational content, which we'll go through in a second, but the point still stands. Once you have a sub niche dialed in, all your content can then be around that as opposed to more generic weight loss tips. And then as a byproduct, people start to think of you as someone who's not just another fat loss coach, someone who's not just another personal trainer, but more so someone who specializes in, the alpha arms, or like the guy who gets, like the personal trainer or the fitness coach whose expertise is in getting people a shredded 6-pack. So that's the first way to stand out. And the second way here is then you want to start to differentiate via the mechanism, which is the how. So just a quick important thing here. When I say the how, I don't mean the process of your coaching. So I don't mean, oh yeah, first we're gonna do an intake questionnaire and then we're going to do like one-on-one coaching. I mean the mechanism in which you get them to the result and how it's under a different method than anything they've tried before. So Eugene Schwartz is, one of the most famous all-time marketers, copywriters out there. And what he says is a new mechanism is basically a new way to making the old promise work. And what that means is in the fitness space, because we're in what's called like a stage 4 to 5 market sophistication, it means there are a lot of fitness coaches out there, and it means that everyone is making the same claims. So everyone is making the same claims, like, I'm going to help you lose fat and get tone. I'm going to help you get shredded. I'm going to help you do this and that. And simply making a bigger claim on top of your competitor is not going to convince them to work with you. So take, for example, in the business coaching space, every business coach is saying, I'm going to get you to 5K. And then the next coach is saying, I'm going to get you to 10K. And then the next coach is saying, I'm going to get you to 100K in 2 days. And it gets to a point as the market gets more and more competitive that even if you exaggerate the claims, your audience is only going to believe them so much, right? So even if a business coach now came up to you guys and said, hey, so instead of helping you make 10K, like, Hannah, I'm going to teach you how to make 30K in 30 days, you're probably going to be like, hey, I'm not sure why, I'm not sure I believe that, because, well, we have constraints in terms of what we're actually going to believe. And what that means for you guys is that instead of exaggerating the caliber of result that you can get people, you need to be able to find an angle to show them that you can get them to the same result in a better way, a better method. And I'll explain this if it's a bit confusing for now, but basically for people to buy, of course, we've all heard people buy on emotions and not logic, which I know you guys have heard before, but people also need a logical argument as to why they can justify another purchase, even after they've been let down in the past. So people need to be able to construct a logical narrative in their brain as to why they're willing to open their wallets again and invest in you again when they've already tried something in the past that doesn't work. And so what that means is that you can't position your services as just, more of the same thing, which is what a lot of you guys I'm seeing are falling to the trap of, is position yourself as, just another fitness coach who offers fat loss, or just another personal trainer who helps you get in shape, because there's no strong, unique differentiator. So think of it like keto versus if it fits your macros versus carb cycling. They can all get you to a specific end result, which is lose 10 pounds, but the way they get you there is different, which is the how, or the mechanism. So for example, in flexible dieting, that's the unique mechanism in which the benefit of using that approach is that you don't have to sacrifice eating your favorite foods like snacks. So another example is, well, just going off the premise that people love shiny new stuff. And so if you can show them that you're able to get them to a result using a method that they haven't tried in the past, then that's what allows you to differentiate yourself via the mechanism. And an example of this is if you're a fat loss coach and you're helping people lose, 20 pounds, just like your competitors, the way you can angle it, and this is just, an example, of course, is a marketing and a sales angle of, look, like instead of working on just another diet or instead of fixing your diet, what we really need to focus on is fixing your hormones or fixing your gut. Because that's what's going to get people to rationalize why the thing they tried in the past doesn't work. And a really good way or really good framework that I'm going to give you guys here is that you want to be able to do this by shifting people's perspective, by showing them why their current method doesn't work, because it's the symptom level problem, whereas what you're going to help them with is really the root level problem. So in this first example here, it's like, okay, the diet is the symptom level problem that people always tend to want to fix, whereas the real cause of them being fat is their hormones, which is the root level problem, which you can fix. So basically what we're doing here is we're showing them that the way you're going to get them to the result is by tackling a root problem that they haven't otherwise paid attention to. So let me know if that all makes sense so far. I'm just going to quickly check you guys' comments here. So Andrew's on, Bogdan's live, Becca's live. Cool, guys. Amazing. Let me know your biggest takeaways from this so far and what questions you guys have. Now, the second thing that we're going to move on to is talking about the celebrity positioning formula. So this is really just the basics of personal branding 101. And here is the painful, harsh truth about growing an online business using a personal brand, which is one of the most effective, compelling ways to get to 10K a month fast, is that having charisma is going to help. And being the cool kid in high school is going to help. So the reason why even for us, like we started talking about and shifting more so towards personal branding too and teaching that is because we've seen a lot of clients be successful. And throughout the program, the past 2 years, we've also had some clients who didn't quite get as much success. And so when I dissected it, what I found is that all the clients in which business came more naturally to and made more money all had these common characteristics that I want to show you guys so that you can start to have the awareness of whether you have these things too. And if not, it's not the end of the world. This is what I'm going to show you. So first thing is, just having this it factor or being cool, having charisma, being able to present yourself well is going to help. And the second thing is, if you want to make more sales, then you have to be the embodied example of what your prospects want. Okay, so let me just say that again. You have to actually be the person that your prospect wants to be. So you have to be living, breathing example and have certain traits or lifestyle or physique or personality that your prospect wants. Because at the end of the day, that's why people buy, is because they want to be a better version of themselves. So what you want to start thinking about is what things does your ideal client want? So what certain characteristics do they wish they were? In terms of personality, beliefs, in terms of their reputation, how they want others to perceive them, and what sort of political views, religious views, personality, what do they identify with? And then how can you show your audience that you can embody these traits and that you are basically the, living, breathing example? So, for example, right, if you are in the niche of helping people look better so that they can, well, be more confident, then you better make sure that that confidence translates over to the way you present yourself, right? If, and this is going to be an awful example, so I hope no one gets offended, but if, for example, your whole messaging is, if, for example, you're a male fitness coach and your whole messaging is to help people or males look better and have that confidence and be alpha so that they can attract more girls or, go on more dates, then you bet that if you want to be doubly successful, then you better somewhat show that you are not just, talking to the talk, but walking the walk as well. So just a quick thing about what we can all learn from the, Instagram influencers that we all make fun of from time to time is that the reason why we buy products from influencers that they promote is because we want to be like them in one way or another. And let's admit, like all these influencers online, in one way or another, they always have some sort of characteristic that the, normal person wants, whether it's a really luxurious lifestyle or being really attractive or being really popular or loved or certain personality. Influencers all have something that the ideal client or that their market wants to be like. And so brands, they know this. And what they also know is that if we get an influencer to promote a product, like a hairbrush or a hair color or a piece of clothing or a brand, then their followers will want to buy the product, not because of the product in itself, but because we think that by using the same product that the influencer uses, we're then one step closer to having those ideal characteristics that we want for ourselves. So let me know if this all makes sense so far. I'm just going to check the comments real quick. Comments. Oh, I can't see any. No one's commenting. Or maybe it's just me. Michaela, this is why I post fun pole dancing videos. Definitely the positioning. That makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Yes. Okay. So just to continue on with that too. A big thing that I also want to emphasize is the fact that whatever personality traits that you naturally have in real life, don't feel like you have to suppress it or pretend to be someone else that you're not just because you see someone else who's very successful being the opposite. So what I mean by that is, just to give you guys an example, for myself, like I'm actually a pretty big introvert. I'm for those of you guys who are like, into Myers-Briggs, like I'm an INTJ. So what that means is that compared to a lot of other coaches, I'm not the type of person who's like, oh my God, like build your business and like manifest on crystals and your energy and vibrations, and like you're not aligned, girl, because that's just not me. And so while some other coaches can be massively successful with that sort of vibe and energy, it's not that vibe and energy per se that makes them successful. It's them stepping into that and really playing into what they naturally have already. So for example, on my end, naturally, whenever I talk or whenever I do live videos or whenever I'm coaching, I'm not always the most, how do I say it? Like woo woo, rah rah, like spiritual, cheerleadery type person. And you don't have to pretend to be someone that you're not, right? But people can sense whenever you are trying to be something you're not. And the truth is, there are so many different types of personalities and characters that can all be wildly successful. The most important thing is that you own what you have and you don't try to be someone that you're not. Because on my end, one thing that a lot of people tell me is, oh, well, I like how you're so direct, or I like that you're super blunt. And some people hate it, which, totally fine. But then you can only get as much love as you get hate. And most people, when they start to put themselves out there in business, they want to be loved, they want people to like them, but they're also not able to accept the hate. And it doesn't go, it goes both ways. Like, if you want to have an audience of people who really love you and put you above your competitors, then you also have to be dealing with the fact that there are going to be people who don't resonate with you and hate you, and that's fine too. So the next thing here is different, but and I'll also preface this whole thing by saying, this isn't like the be all end all, but I'm just going to give this to you guys so that you have the tools to use if you want. But the next thing that you notice, if you think about your top maybe 3 influencers or coaches that you follow and that are always top of mind for you, is that in terms of physical appearance or their physical style, the people that you most remember are also always going to have a congruent theme in terms of how they present themselves physically. And what you'll see a lot of the time is that a lot of people who have really compelling personal brands and the people who are really successful when it comes to coaching is that they always have certain physical elements in either themselves or their visual brand that allows them to stand out. And this isn't necessarily something that you do on purpose or that you have to go out of your way to try for, but it's more so your state of being and who you are as a person. So what you'll find is that a lot of the people that you follow, they will have certain physical, I don't mean physical features and like, oh, someone has like really blue eyes, but I also mean in terms of their branding style, they will always have certain striking elements in their visual brand. And that tends to be congruent across the way they present themselves. So it might be, I know one girl who is, she's literally a branding coach, and the way she presents herself is she has a really specific style in which she's got, bright red hair and bright red lipstick. And, I'm obviously not saying like, go dye your hair or do a bunch of stuff that doesn't feel good to you, but I'm more so breaking down for you guys the different factors that feed into building a personal brand. Okay, so that you can play on. So moving on from that too, the third point here is, what values do you have, both when it comes to business or helping people get results? What things do you stand for, right? What's your philosophy? What's your belief when it comes to helping people lose weight or helping people reach their goals? And whatever your unique angle is, once again, play into it. So for example, if one of your philosophies when it comes to being a coach is not necessarily having a phenomenal on paper before and after 12-week transformation, then, talk about that and hammer that in your content and use that angle of, so my philosophy as a coach is not just getting, a nice before and after picture for you that you can show your friends. If it comes at the expense of you sacrificing your hormones, your health, your relationships, and your mood, right? What I really stand for is getting people results which aren't necessarily, 30 pounds in 90 days, but more so doing it in a way that doesn't require you to sacrifice all these other life things. So that's an example too, right? Another example of what sort of things do you really take a stand for? And I know in business wise, I'll give you guys my example. It's more so, we really believe that for anyone who wants to be successful, they have to be willing to, take bold risks and leverage credit, because that's what, smart business owners do. And also another thing here is the fact that, scaling quickly and scaling rapidly is sexy and it sells, but not necessarily what's great for building a long-term sustainable business. So whatever values you believe in, make sure that you're talking about that throughout your content. And I know everyone here has probably heard things like, oh, you need to be polarizing, or, oh, well, you have to be polarizing because that's what people remember. And that's totally true. But a lot of people, they first hear that and they tend to misunderstand what being polarizing actually means. So being polarizing doesn't mean being insulting or purposely offending people. Being polarizing doesn't mean swearing a ton just because certain people are okay with it and certain people aren't. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen coaches who it's like they try to be polarizing and they say the word fuck every other fucking sentence. It's like, that's not polarizing, okay? That's just trying to be polarizing. And there's a difference. And the right way to be polarizing is to actually take a stand for what you believe in, even though it might be the unpopular opinion, or even though it might be against the grain of the market. So being polarizing doesn't always mean putting stuff out to offend people for the sake of offending people. So moving on to visual branding here. The main overall approach that you want to use when it comes to your branding and your content and your copy and your business as a whole is you want to approach it from a place of show and not tell. So this really ties in when it comes to visual branding. And it's that imagery. So visual imagery like pictures and videos are more compelling to get your audience to believe a certain thing compared to you explicitly telling them something. And the reason why visual images or being covert is more effective is because you're getting the audience to come to their own conclusion subconsciously, as opposed to you telling them. So think of it like dating. It's like you want to be sold on the person that you're dating, but you don't want to know that you're being sold on it. Right? Does that make sense? And let me give you an example. It's like, for example, well, I can either tell you that I'm rich, not me specifically, but anyone can either tell you that they're rich, or I can imply that I'm rich by showing a nice house or having pictures of me carrying designer handbags or just being well groomed and looking the part. And which do you think is going to be more effective, right? Me telling you like, hey, I make a lot of money, or me not necessarily saying it, but having that conveyed on a long term through imagery. So the other thing too is think about throughout your marketing, are you just telling people what you want them to think? Or are you actually showing people in a way which is more subtle, but gets them to come to their own conclusions? Next point here is remember that people follow you for entertainment. So you guys know how yesterday we talked about the main reasons why someone's going to follow you and even listen to you, right? It's going to be entertainment and education. So basically, because you have value to give people. And so just do a quick gut check too. Are your pictures visually entertaining? Or do they look kind of unprofessional? Right? So just do a quick scroll of your Facebook. Are the pictures that you use, are they stock images? Are they, very salesy, stock images that you can find off Google or that you find off corporate PowerPoints? Are they engaging to look at? Will they make people want to stop and actually read your post, right? Are your pictures visually engaging? And the images, the pictures that you choose in your marketing are all going to factor into, like we spoke about earlier, your coolness and how much your market wants to be like you. And the more people want to be like certain parts of you, the more likely they are to buy from you. Kind of like what we spoke about before. So I'm not saying, I'm not saying that you have to be every single part of exactly what your ideal market wants to be. but there are certain characteristics or personality or lifestyle elements that you should hold that reflect the person that your market wants to be. So for example, when it comes to business, right? I'll use myself as an example. Well, I don't necessarily live the 10-hour work week where I travel loads and live in my bikini and get drunk every weekend next to a beach, right? But I also embody that element of freedom and being able to work my own terms and do what I want. So it doesn't always have to be that what you're doing maps on exactly to what your audience wants, but there should be certain characteristics or traits that you embody that your ideal client also wants to be. So for example, for me, like, not everyone who comes into our program necessarily wants, well, people definitely don't want my awful sense of dry humor, but no, they don't necessarily want to be, my level of maybe directness or bluntness or like deadpanness, but people want the element of confidence when it comes to being able to sell, right? And actually promote themselves. So that's another example there as well. And onto the whole, in terms of visual imagery too, people subconsciously make judgments about you based on your images. And the main things you want to look out for is, are your pictures low quality? Are they blurry? Do they look good? Right? Like some people, it comes naturally where they know how to, edit pictures to make them look good, but, brighten up your image a bit, whiten it a bit. Don't post a low quality, grainy, blurry selfie and then expect that to convey the fact that you're a premium coach. And good visual branding should be entertaining to look at. So think of fitness influencers, think of Instagram influencers. The value that they're giving isn't, super deep life lessons. The value that they're giving is the high quality pictures, which allows you that temporary second of escapism from your reality, because you almost imagining how life could be like. So now we're going to move on to content and copywriting. But before we do that, let me just see who's got questions. If no one has questions, then I'll just continue on with this. But see, Callan's on, Preston's on, Marie's on, Trish, Melvin, Michaela, Andrew, and Nick Banks. Awesome. If you guys don't know Nick, congrats on just taking the leap yesterday to work with us. Super pumped for you. Callan says, having appealing images and pictures are what's holding me back. I don't have the desire to get dressed and impress every day, so I don't have good content. Yeah, I mean, I will also go back to saying that when it comes to visual branding, it is one of those things that can, visual branding in itself is the pizza. It's one slice of the pizza, whereas there are other slices of the pizza that contribute more towards making sales. So I wouldn't necessarily let this get in the way of, of holding you back when it comes to building your business. But I'm also giving you guys the principle so that you can start to make tweaks without it necessarily interfering on your day-to-day life, or without having it being super intrusive on what you're currently doing. So just keep that in mind too. But if you don't have this if you don't have this dialed in, then this isn't the biggest lever that you can pull in comparison to, knowing how to do sales or writing copy. But yeah, the practical solution to this would be to take it all in bulk. So get dressed up like once a month and then just take it all in bulk. That's the best way to do it. And you don't even have to do this every day as well. Like I hardly get dressed up just to take pictures. In fact, I almost never do that. But moving on, here's what we are going to go through quickly in this last section. The biggest mistake that most coaches make is that they don't have a strategy besides post consistently. The reason why I say this is because this is based off what a lot of our clients come in say, is they've been told to post consistently, but posting consistently is not a strategy in itself. It's just something that you do. And so even if you post consistently, if you're posting the wrong things, then it's still not really going to have as much impact as it could, right? Because posting consistently is about the behavior, whereas posting correctly is about the strategy, which is what I'm going to tell you guys here. And different types of content have different purposes. So the way you want to think of it is you have different types of content, and they all should contribute towards streamlining people, or they all should contribute towards one central narrative to coach your market on why they should work with you. And what most people do is they just do this, spray and pray tactic of posting a bunch of workouts or exercises or like their recipes. And that's only really one segment of content posting, because you are showing proof that you know what you're doing in the gym, but it doesn't necessarily influence or persuade your audience on a deeper level to show them why they should work with you. So, I mean, copywriting is another thing altogether, but for now, I am just going to give you guys a few hacks or tricks in terms of how to instantly elevate your copy game. So the first one is that your headline must captivate your audience and evoke curiosity, especially if it's more of a direct response type of post where you want people to read the whole thing because you want them to take action. And look, people are always finding a reason to scroll past and not read your thing, which means that you have to give them a reason to stop and read your post. So when you do this well, what happens is people read your first line and they have two choices. Do I scroll past it or do I keep reading? And so a compelling headline should serve the purpose of evoking curiosity so that people will either want to read the rest of the post or they have to go through that painful psychological process of scrolling past it. So one key to this in general, whether it's with your whole post or your headline, with your content, is that you want to be ballsy. So be gutsy and be polarizing, and don't be boring. Like, be dramatic, right? So I'm going to show you guys some examples of how I do this in a second. But the best copy is going to almost stir up a bit of controversy or controversy, however you pronounce it. And they should hit people like a truck, like intrigue people. Second thing that you want to do sometimes is you want to tell people the benefit of reading until the end, especially if you have a call to action at the end. So you guys know how sometimes on Facebook, there's like, when someone writes a post, it's like the first few lines of the post. And then there's the button that says like, see more, ... And you have to click it to see more. So everything above the see more link is what we call the fold. And sometimes what you can do is you can tell people read till the end because of XYZ. So give people a benefit to reading towards the end. So just a few tips there that you can start to implement today in your copy that's instantly going to make things better, and examples coming in a second. But the first type of content, and look, there are 4, or I'll even say 5 types of content that you want to make sure you're posting in rotation, which all helps build, well, they will do different things. The first type is educational. And this is any sort of content that educates your audience. And the purpose of this is that it demonstrates proof of expertise. So proof that as a fitness coach, you actually are an expert when it comes to fitness coaching. This is where most coaches fall in the trap of, is they'll go through a program or they'll start learning business and they're like, oh, well, I need to post consistently. And then they'll just post like 10 videos on how to squat or how to deadlift or how to track macros or how to lose weight. And make sure your content just isn't too educational. So if you go and take a look at the last 10 posts or the last 20 posts, how many of them are just of you teaching your audience something, like how to do a squat, for example. The tip on making educational content good is to not post lame stuff that your audience already know. And this used to, I won't say work, but used to be able to get away with it 2 years ago because there were less, online fitness coaches. But now if you want to really stand out, then you have to be able to give people a good piece of information that they don't already know, or teach them something good that they can implement quickly to get a quick win. And to give you guys an example, what you don't want to do is you don't want to post something like 3 tips on how to lose weight. Tip 1, drink more water. Tip 2, go on more walks. I've just stopped slideshow in a second because I'm going to bring up my example for you guys to show you guys how I do it. So yeah, tip 1, drink more water. Tip 2, go on more walks. Tip 3, move more. And it's like, your audience is going to read that and they're going to be like, oh, well, I kind of, already know that. So when it comes to educational content, you want to give them something that really blows their minds. So I'm just pulling up an example for you guys, but let me just grab my charger. Okay. So I picked out my content, for example, for you guys, but I need to bring it up. So okay. Here's an example of an educational piece of content. It's not me telling you how to pick a niche. It's not me telling you that you have to sell the features and the benefits and not the features, which you already know. It's me telling you something about sales that you can implement straight away. And I'm breaking something down in a way that you haven't heard before. All right. So when you do this well, you tend to get quite a good amount of engagement. And let me show you guys another example here. Okay. So it's like the exact content strategy, which has generated my clients and I millions. And I actually, this is long. Like, I'm not saying it has to be this long, but you want to make sure that you're actually putting some thought behind the actual educational post that you are putting out for your audience. So let me know if that all makes sense so far. Just going to check the comments real quick before we move on to the next thing. Questions? Julia's watching. Julia's joined us. Hello. Does no one have questions? Okay, I've lost my slides now, but second thing here is perspective shifting. So this second category of content is shifting people's perspectives on the industry myths or the common mistakes, or really challenging their commonly held beliefs when it comes to fat loss, for example. So, okay, my screen share just like fucked up. So let me know if you guys can see my screen. Okay. So what you want to do is so what you want to do, an example of this is you want to discredit the other solutions, because that's what indoctrinates your audience into thinking that yours is the best way. So think of it like ClickFunnels, for example. A big reason why a lot of people use ClickFunnels, even though they don't necessarily need it, is because Russell Brunson did such a good job in convincing people that ClickFunnels is, the one and only way to get to 6 figures. An example in fitness is more so going to be things like shifting people's perspectives on diet pills or shifting people's perspectives on waist trainers or supplements or steroids. So similarly to that, what you want to do is you basically want to handle the limiting beliefs which prevent people from buying from you. And just to be clear, like what I mean by this is I don't mean finance objections. I mean, what are the limiting beliefs that are preventing people from being sold on your solution, right? Not working with you. So your solution and your approach. And one example of this is going to be something like, well, a common belief is, well, I have bad genetics, so I'm probably never going to reach my goals. Or, well, like maybe I never have the time. So the second category of content, and you guys, I would do a gut check, or not gut check, but I would go back and see how much of these pieces of content do I actually have. The third thing, the third category of content is what we call pre-handling objections. So, well, what's the best way to get better at sales, even if you suck? Best way to get more sales without being better at sales is to get better at marketing. So look, like if people are already sold 70% by the time they get on a call with you, then it's a much easier sell. And it might just be, figuring out logistics back and forth. A big part of this in terms of how to get that up from, 10% to 70% is going to be handling your sales objections in your content in the form of shifting people's perspectives and challenging their deep-rooted beliefs that are not empowering for them to reach their goals. So one example of this is going to be any beliefs that people have around credit or finances. And this is something for us, right? So something that obviously, like I said, like we believe in as in terms of growing a business is that sometimes leveraging credit is the best way if that's what it takes to invest in your business, because the most successful people do that. But that's not necessarily something that our market always agrees with or believes, because a lot of the time in society, we've been brought up to believe that credit is bad. So in terms of the business context, one thing that I'll do is in my content, handle the objection of people being scared to use credit. But the key here is to do this with poise and to do this with class. So you want to do this in a way that is subtle and in a way that allows people to actually believe what you say, as opposed to from a place of berating your audience and really coming down at them. Because once again, it goes back to the whole concept of you want to show, not tell. So if you're making posts like, why you should invest in your health right now, or why you should hire online coaching instead of a personal trainer, it's not nearly as effective as writing a post where it may be more subtle, but you're allowing them to come to their own conclusion. And a good way to do this is to simply tell the story about yourself and how you overcame whatever objection that you want your market to overcome. So, for example, instead of me writing a post saying why you should use credit card or else you suck, what I would do is I would write a post more so on like, hey, I used to think that using credit card to invest in my business was not a smart move until I realized XYZ, and then I did it. And I also realized that all the smartest, best business owners also leverage credit. And I knew that if I wanted to get the results that my role models had, then I had to also change my way of thinking to adapt to theirs, right? So making it in a way, or write it in a way where it's angled in a subtle way, as opposed to screaming at people, because people aren't going to listen to that. And then the final piece here is empowering or emotional or more philosophical type of content. And the purpose of this type of content is to show your audience or indoctrinate your audience with a new way of thinking or a new set of beliefs, which move them closer to the buying pocket. So if you think about high ticket versus low ticket, people who are willing to invest a high ticket price point always have a more sophisticated set of beliefs compared to people who are only able to invest in a low ticket price point. And a large part of that, more sophisticated way of thinking is going to come down to their beliefs or their willingness to take risks, as well as their belief that their future or their results is truly in their own hands and their decision to make, as opposed to like at the mercy of some other external force, right? So what set of beliefs does your ideal client need to have in order for them to even buy from you? These are some examples. So for people to want to invest in a fitness program, they probably have to believe that it's really possible for them, because certainty and believability is a big thing that people buy. And then in business, which is more so the example that I want to give you guys here, all the people who invest, high ticket, they all believe that they have to be willing to take bold risks that no one else is willing to take if they really want to be an entrepreneur. So this type of content is more emotionally charged. It's more philosophical compared to the educational type content. And it's designed to basically inspire your audience to believe a certain thing or to really take action. And really, it's emboldening, right? So you're showing them that it's possible for them. The most basic example here is telling your own story. So it's kind of like from a place of, look, like if I can do this, even though I came from this past, then you can do this too. And when you do this the right way, this type of content actually gets the most engagement, because this is vulnerability. Like vulnerability isn't crying on a live stream to talk about how stressful your life is. Vulnerability is connecting with your audience to show them different parts of you and where you came from, and showing them that it's possible for them too, because you come from the same position. So before I jump into the fifth thing, does anyone have questions? I'm just gonna quickly check you guys' comments. Jessica says, makes sense. Jill says, hi. What's up, Jill? For those of you guys who don't know, Jill's a client, so make sure you holler at her and check out her stuff. But it seems like no one else has comments so far, has questions. So let's go into the fifth piece of content. Now, originally, I didn't always used to teach this, but then this is something that I started doing just because it came more intuitive to me. And then I started teaching my clients this, but this is really helpful for, okay, I was gonna show you guys some examples of content, and then my assistant just put the examples in the slideshow too. So I can send this to you guys too, but the fifth type of content, and this is what's really good for quickly establishing authority, is to commentate on the market or the industry trends that you see in the fitness space or the fitness coaching space, and what you like about it and what you don't like about it. And this is the best way that you can quickly position yourself as an authority, right? It's basically to commentate on what's going on and to give you 2 cents on where the market is going. Let me give you guys an example. I'll use myself as an example, or I'll use the business coaching space as an example. So one thing that I will sometimes talk about is how lately there's been this trend in the business coaching space where a lot of people like to overinflate their revenue numbers, which aren't their real numbers. Or I'll talk about a trend that we see a lot of the time, which is how in a lot of, popular programs, a lot of coaches, they don't always provide the support because it's like a Facebook group with 500 people, and you just post in the group and you're giving a bunch of modules and you pay like 10K. And so what I'll do is, sometimes commentate on the industry trend and what I'm seeing and give my 2 cents on it. And this does two things. So the first is it positions you as an expert, whether it's, hey, lately I've been seeing these trends in the fitness space and I want to show you guys that these trends are, well, just trends, because nothing beats diet and exercise, right? It's like only an expert knows and sees and observes market trends. And the second thing is that this gives you the opportunity to be polarizing and really take a stand for what you believe in and position yourself against the competition. So going back to an example that I'll use in a business context, just because I think it's going to be easier for you guys to understand. Something that, like, this is a bit of the behind the scenes of our marketing, but something that, I'll do or I like doing is because a lot of people who join our program have been in previous programs where they didn't get support, or it's just, they don't even know the business owner, or it's like a 300 people Facebook group and once a week group coaching and they don't get results. What I'll do is I'll talk about sometimes the ethics of where the industry is going, and then also inject my personal opinion and what I stand for, which is the fact that I don't believe, as businesses, and even what we teach our clients, is that you shouldn't sacrifice quick growth if it's going to be at the expense of client experience and client satisfaction, right? So whatever you believe in, make a point out of it, take a stand for it. Not everyone has to agree with it, because that's fine. But ultimately, you're not trying to please everyone, right? You're just trying to please a select group of people. So really, when it comes to the 4 or 5 tiers of content that you want to make sure you post, those are at a high level. Well, make sure you include all 5 of them, because that's what's going to contribute towards the overall narrative and build that argument for why people should work with you and no one else. Now, tier 2 content is what I also like to include, because this comes as part of building authority and your personal brand. So the first thing is, and you want to weave tier 2 in your longer value-driven posts, which is the 5 that we spoke about. So the first is more lifestyle things. So this is proof that you're, well, being the person that your ideal client wants to be. Because kind of like we spoke about, it's much easier to get people to want to work with you and buy from you and be in your space if you are embodying certain traits and lifestyle characteristics that they want. So making sure that you're posting a certain amount of lifestyle things too. This can be Instagram story, this can be occasionally on your Facebook feed, but anything that allows people to almost see into your life. And the second thing is you want to weave in proof of results, because of course, proof of results is one of the most important things. So you want to show people that you're actually consistently getting client results at scale. And then the third thing that you can also do is post off-topic things, or, life milestones or entertainment things. So anything that isn't directly on topic or about your business, you can basically post to, and that's going to help towards the narrative of the overall, non-neediness, because it's not always business, 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 right? And it's going to show people a part of who you are too in terms of your personality. So there you have it. This is day 2. We've gone over the 3 things that we said we'd cover. And your homework for today is to write one piece of content under one of the categories and post it in the group. All right, so post it in the group and tag me, tag Vincent, tag Nathan, and we can check it out for you. So if you haven't done day one's homework, which is priming your profile, make sure you do that. But let me know for now what questions you guys have, what comments you guys have. Tomorrow, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about sales and concepts when it comes to scaling. And when it comes to sales, you guessed it, I am not just going to be talking about sell the transformation and not the features. But that's it for today's live. I hope you guys got something from it. So let me know your biggest takeaways in the comments. And I will see you guys tomorrow at the same time, 9:30 Eastern, 2:30 UK time. I'll see you guys here.